Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about nap transitions, which is always a big and fun topic with parents because you just never know what nap transition you're hitting. So we have Jen Varela from Sugar Night Night, and I'm going to hand it over to you if you can start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I love talking about naps because when you're having a good nap day, you're like, oh, today's great. When you're having a bad nap day, it's like panic. So I think it's a great topic. So I'm Jen Varela, and the name of my company is Sugar Night Night because that's what I say to my kids when they were little, Sugar Night Night to go to bed. And I've been in practice since 2010. I work with families all over the country and even in other countries. It's amazing what we can do now with, internet and Zooming. And so one of the things I think that's kind of unique about my practice is I work with families in all different sleeping configurations, from bed sharing to room sharing to separate room, separate sleep surface. So I don't do a one size fits all. I'm more focused on what's working and not working for your family and how can we do that safely, as well as keeping tears to a minimum. So I'm kind of a crazy sleep coach. Tears make my ears ring. I get lightheaded and feel physical pain. So you can either call me highly empathetic or wimpy, whichever. But I'm always looking, can we trade tears for time? Yeah. So there you go. That's a little snapshot of what Sugar Night Night's about.
Love that. I feel like the pandemic kind of opened up the door for us to be able to do so much more through the internet, which is kind of a blessing, but obviously we were stuck at home. So anyway, getting into naps. So
Yeah.
we all look forward to the naps, right? It's like the time that you're like, oh my gosh, I can get nothing on my list done, but maybe brush my teeth. So let's start off
Right.
with those early naps. What do those first naps look like? Especially when you're like a first time mom, you have like no idea.
hmm Yeah, I always say not normal is normal, right? It's like a 20-minute nap. It's a 2-hour nap. It's a 45-minute nap, right? Today was a 3 nap day, or maybe it was a 5 nap day. And I remember those days, and I remember like thinking, oh my gosh, did I shower today or was that yesterday? It's kind of a groundhog day. And so what's happening and why this is happening and why it's so significant is when you think about all the information that the little ones are taking in now that they're out of the womb, right? So they're learning everything by their senses: smell, taste, sight, touch, and hearing, right? And so with that, during REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, this is where they take the information from the day and they put it into long-term memory. So when you get these little like 20-minute naps that a lot of people have coined as crap naps, I'm going to say, no, those are important because there's only so much information they can store into short-term memory before it needs to go into long-term memory. So maybe that nap was about like a new smell that they just took in and it needs to go into long-term memory. So it's very purposeful, these naps. And the thing that is consistent at about 6 to 8 weeks is how long can they be awake before they go over that waterfall of cortisol, that overtired waterfall, right? So, how I look at naps, especially in the very beginning, is it's not about the 12-hour clock. It's not about my nap should be at 9 and 11 and 1 and whatever. It's more about how long can they be awake before they have been too stimulated and that cortisol kicks in. Dr. Polly Moore has done some great work, and she has a lovely acronym. She's a neuroscientist here in San Diego, and she calls it NAPS, N-A-P-S. So if I was to give a parent one tip that's a new parent, I would say use this acronym. So you note the time they wake up. So if they woke up at 7 a.m., you go, okay, woke up at 7. You add 90 minutes. So that means, okay, 8:30. You pee, play, interact, have a good time, get some sunshine, and then you soothe them back to sleep by 8:30. So you don't want their awake window to be longer than 90 minutes. Just doing that will help a great deal in making sure they're getting enough sleep in a 24 hours and that you're not having a baby who's overtired. Prior to 8 weeks, it might only be an hour or even 45 minutes. But as you get closer to 8 weeks, you're going to find that that 90-minute window is pretty magical. And that can work sometimes all the way up until 6 months.
I so appreciate that you mentioned like this schedule because I feel like as soon as you have this baby, first time mom, you're like, okay, I got to get them on a schedule because you keep hearing about these schedules. And that's really like not the key. It's more of the wake windows. So thanks for bringing that up. So now let's look
Yeah.
at after that newborn phase. When do they now start to kind of spread out in length and how often? And how should most infants nap once they've exited that newborn phase?
Yeah. So we have to address the elephant in the room first, which is temperament. So temperament plays a huge part in easy nappers or tricky nappers, right? And so sometimes you get these little FOMO babies that they're just on and they do not want the fun to stop. And just getting a nap is like moving heaven and earth. So I just want you to know, first of all, that it might not all be in your control, right? We think we've got control over these things, but maybe not. So when you're looking at how the schedule progresses or whatnot, what I want you to know is the National Sleep Foundation, when they put out their recommendations on how much sleep little ones should have, they did it based on a 24 hours. They didn't say day sleep and night sleep. So I don't want you to get in a panic if as I talk about these schedules, that your little one is not adhering to these schedules, because that might not be a big problem if you're not having crazy night awakenings or your baby's not overtired with the long wake windows. So we're still all individuals. And so as I talk about these schedules, I just want to add the caveat that you know your baby best. And so long as they're getting enough sleep in a 24 hours, if these schedules are not lining up, but you guys are thriving and connecting and attaching, then don't let I should be doing something to should on you. So I just feel like that's an important thing to say, because it's easy for us to all just want to look for, well, what's the schedule? Tell me the schedule, right? So we can know we're doing it right. But I think you have to remember everyone's an individual. Your baby's an individual. So with that, back to your question of when will it progress? How will things, kind of change over time? So around 4 months of age is when they might start to consolidate those naps on their own. So you might be doing like a 30-minute nap in the crib, but then you have to pick them up to get that hour nap, right? But somewhere around 4 months, some little ones will start to consolidate those. And you might start to see, especially that first morning nap, to begin to stretch. And you might find that they can go 2.5 hours between naps, and they're okay so long as you're kind of scheduling it. You might find that you're still on that 90-minute window and naps are very like unpredictable still. So that is super normal until about 6 months of age. At 6 months and a little change, I kind of find it's like 6.5 months, they will start to be able to really get locked in to a little bit more of a quote unquote 12-hour schedule. So that morning nap will happen about 2 hours after they wake in the morning. It's about an hour and a half. And then around 1 o'clock, they'll do another hour and a half. And then around 4 to 5:30, somewhere in there, they'll do a 30-minute nap. And the awake window will shift to 2 to 2.5 hours at around 6 months of age. And this is where things get a little more predictable and feel like, okay, things are coming together. Because even if they can't consolidate those naps on their own, you can help them do it. So that's where I feel like things kind of start to shift. And then at around 9 months, you're going to find you can't get a third nap anymore. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, we just got here and now I can't get the third nap. What's going on? And so this is when the brain is saying you can do 2 times of sleep during the day, but then the rest of the night, like that's it. So you don't get to do 3 times of sleep during the day. So this was one of the times I find is really hard. And what my recommendation is to put the long wake window in the middle of the day, not at the end of the day. So like a 2 o'clock nap, which means you're having this huge window between first and second nap, but then you can protect that last wake window. So around 9 months, you're probably at 3 hours that they can go between last nap and bedtime without getting that cortisol surge and being overtired. And then the next transition within this first year is by the time they get to 12 months, you will see that they can go 4 hours between last nap and bedtime. And so now you can move that second nap up a little bit and you don't have such a huge window between first and second nap.
I really appreciate that you also talked about the FOMO babies. I have a really good friend that has a total FOMO baby. And yeah, we'll fight those naps.
Mhm.
It's hard because I don't like to be like, well, this is what you need to do or should do. I'm always like, this is what worked for me. And like, I don't know if it's going to work for your baby.
Right? Yeah.
Different personalities.
Mhm.
So I feel like you kind of already went over this, but if we can talk a little bit about like I don't want to say ideal nap schedule, but theoretically, what would a nap schedule look like for, let's say, 4 to 5 month old, a 6 to 9 month old, and then that, 9 to 12 month old?
Yeah. So at that 4 to 6 month old, you're still using that 90-minute window, right? And especially at the end of the day, even if they could navigate a longer wake window. And it could be a variety of length of nap and it could be a variety of like number of naps. At 6 months, you're going to find a 3 nap schedule is working. And that's where that 2 hours awake, have a nap. So if they were awake at 7, then at 9 o'clock, you would do hour and a half nap optimally. Then you would do the second nap around 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock. You're looking for another hour and a half. So by the time they finish 2 naps, they're at a combined nap total of 3 hours. And then you do a little top off nap at the end of the day, somewhere between, we'll say between 4:30 and 6. And that's about 30 minutes. And then that last wake window from bedtime until asleep will be about 2.5 hours. It's not often that I see at 6 months, 3 hours, but somewhere between 2 and 3 hours, but I'm going to say usually about 2.5. So then at 9 months, you're usually down to a 2 nap schedule, but the wake window is only 3 hours, maybe in some change. So that's where you have that weird time where you do a large wake window in the middle of the day. So that second nap's going to start somewhere around 2 o'clock. And then at 12 months, things will level out finally on a 4 hour wake window at the end of the day. And now you're more typical 2 to 3 hours awake, an hour nap in the morning. Then your second nap of the day is going to happen somewhere between 1, maybe 1:30, and that one will be an hour and a half. So they're a little bit closer to 2.5 hours combined nap total with a 4 hour wake window at the end of the day. That's the
That
snapshot.
really kind of brings me back to like recalling those naps and then dreading this next one I'm going to ask you, but dreading dropping a nap and transitioning my now toddler into one nap, which I will also say I absolutely love the one nap schedule because I feel
Yeah.
like we can actually do things, and those naps are so much longer than the two naps that he was doing prior. So,
Yeah.
when do you see toddlers start to transition?
And this is a hard one, especially if you're doing daycare, because daycare wants to bump them to that 1 nap schedule right at 12 months. And what I find is at 12 months, most babies are not ready for a 2 nap or 1 nap schedule just yet. They really still need a 2 nap schedule. And so my recommendation is if you can get closer to 15 to 18 months where you're going to a 1 nap schedule, because that wake window will again get larger. And so it won't be affecting nights. So how you know you can go to a 1 nap schedule, one is that they're getting between 10 and 11 hours at night and you're not seeing any interruptions. Like it's going well with that. If you're finding too that in the morning it's taking them longer and longer to get to sleep for that first morning nap and that's becoming a real struggle, that's a good indicator that you're ready for a 1 nap schedule. Or if they will take a morning nap, but then they will not give you the afternoon nap and you're in no man's land. And so they're kind of nap striking you for the second nap, then that's an indicator that it's probably time to move to the 1 nap schedule. Most children will do better with than having that crazy long awakening time from when they wake in the morning until the nap, not between last nap and bedtime. However, I will tell you in my practice of over 14 years that I have had about 4 little ones that they were the complete opposite. And they did much better with a short wake window in the morning and a long one in the afternoon. So again, there's no absolutes. You've got to kind of watch your own child and see where are they thriving. And you'll know because they're not overtired at bedtime. You're not getting crazy night awakenings. They're not doing early rising in the morning. They're not falling asleep instantly every time you get in the car. They're not yawning during the day. All those indicators are saying they probably still need more day sleep.
So true. Like my son, I don't think he transitioned until like 15 months, but it was also a struggle to get him to that one nap because they were really short at first. And I was like, "Oh my goodness. What are why did he
Yeah.
have to drop a nap?" I mean, his he obviously needed to drop it, and now he will nap anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes 4 hours, and it doesn't affect his bedtime. And it is incredible. I love it.
Yeah. You got a good
So
napper going. Yeah. That's awesome.
I do. I'm so fortunate. Didn't start that way, when we dropped that second nap. So now, when do they start to drop naps? So I'm actually not looking forward to this part because we now just started school. My toddler's 2.5 years old. And on the days that he goes to school, he tells me he doesn't need to nap. It's half days. So I'm like, no, no, no. You need a nap. You should be tired. What do you mean you don't need a nap? Mama needs you to nap.
Yeah,
I need to
right.
nap.
Totally. I'm so there with you. Yeah, I get it. Like I used to have to wait. I used to have to call. So my kids are 20 months apart. They're now adults, which is crazy to me in college. And I used to call my mom at 4 o'clock and go, "Really, mom? Do I have to wake the babies?" Like it was like fear and trepidation. I was just like, "No, I don't want to wake the babies from their nap," because it just becomes such a lovely, consistent part of your day and just like a moment to exhale, right? So it is always a little like, when are they dropping the nap? So one time that I just want to point out that I get people like when I go to trade shows and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like my baby dropped their nap at 2." And I'm like, they might not have dropped it. They just went through a nap striking time and you thought they were done with their naps. So often during the developmental leap of receptive language burst, where they understand everything you're saying, but they can't say everything they want to say to you, they also get the ability to will themselves not to sleep. So this is really like a crazy time where I get this call where I don't know what happened. My baby's broken. They won't nap anymore. And now bedtime's like super late. It's all kind of chaos. And so I just want you to know that you just got to keep hanging on and giving them the opportunity. Even if you have to, so long as, I mean, the most during the day, like being in a car nap, it's not super safe because being in a car is not super safe, I guess, like if you look at it that way. But like, even if you have to time your naps when you're doing an errand on the way home from Target, and that's how you got in the sneaky nap for that little one that was nap striking you, I'm all for it because they are not ready to give up their nap at 2, but they can go through a stage where it looks like they are. So typically where you're going to see that they give up a nap is between 3 and 5 years of age. So some will start at 3 wanting to drop that nap and some will go all the way to 5. What I find is the key on that is to make sure that the nap is not too late in the day, because they will still need a certain amount of time to be awake in order to have the pressure to go to sleep. So if you have a little one who you can't tell if they're giving up the nap or not, but then they're always napping at like 4:30 and now your bedtime is not happening until 9:30, right? That is when I would say you need to figure out a way to push through so that you aren't losing sleep overall because the bedtime's too late and you only got a little 30-minute nap. Then I'm going to say you got to give up the nap.
My goodness. I hope that my son makes it through that 5 year old. I feel like everything you've said has just been super helpful. Just thinking about like, wow, how did I do it? And also taking me back to trying to like track everything. I feel like naps are so stressful for parents. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting about this super fun yet also stressful topic for parents because you hear just so much information from so many different angles and everyone's opinion on, sleep training or what to do, when to do it, what not to do. So I love that this is just very informative and like here's how many naps they should be getting or hours in a day. So thank you.